This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Shirts for the Scene. Head over to the popkoproject.com and you can purchase your favorite band t-shirt today. We are raising money for the local artist in northeastern Pennsylvania whose income was drastically affected by COVID-19 in 2020. And although we're in a new year, bands will continue to struggle to perform like they once did. So grab a shirt, support a band. The proceeds of each sale go right to the bands whose shirt you are buying. Once again, head over to the popkoproject.com and grab your shirt today. Shirts for the Scene is made possible by Axelrad Screen Printing. Visit them today at axelradarmy.com. My guest today is a published author of a book called Dig, A Personal Prehistoric Journey. The book was released in 2018, and the North Pocono Public Library will be hosting a free virtual discussion about it on Thursday, January 21st at 6 p.m. A Pittston native, he has dug for fossils in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Colorado. We discuss a little bit about those experiences, why dinosaurs are so fascinating to young children and even adults, dinosaur and nature experiences you can take advantage of in northeastern Pennsylvania, and more. We even touch a little bit about his time spent in a band, The Silent Treatment, who was very popular in the late 2000s. Welcome to the show, Sam Chiarelli. And we're live. Welcome. Sam.
So happy to be here. Thank you. Honored to be a part of the show.
Sam Chiarelli. Not Chiarelli,
it.
like I almost called you.
Yeah, my family says Chiarelli, but that's not the correct pronunciation in Sicilian for sure.
Sam Chiarelli.
That's it.
All right. So you have a book that's currently out, correct?
That's right.
All right, awesome. And you're doing this cool events on Thursday, January 21st at 6 p.m. with the North Pocono Public Library, where they're going to talk about the book, correct?
Yes. So they're starting a series at the library where they're going to talk to authors about different subjects, and I'm really excited to be one of the first people asked to do this event. So I believe we're going to be discussing how someone takes a passion of theirs and turns it into a book and how you go about that whole process. And I'm going to share some of my journey to writing the book.
Very cool. So I reached out to you because I saw something that the NEPA Scene posted on their Facebook page. Pittston author, this book called Dig, A Personal Prehistoric Journey. And it caught my eye because I have a 3-year-old son who is obsessed with dinosaurs, right? And I launched this podcast, and it's probably 80%. Oh, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This mic keeps cutting out.
You're all good.
This is 80% music. Did it again. Unbelievable. 80% music, right? But I kind of wanted to expand outside of that to give people like yourself an opportunity, and myself the opportunity, to talk to people like you, and have this as a platform for people to use to help promote events. So you're doing this. This is not going to work. This microphone.
I hear you fine, if that helps at all.
Okay. Well, maybe it's just my. All right. Whatever. We'll continue.
Okay.
As long as you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. That's all that matters. So my son's obsessed with dinosaurs, and I thought, this would be a cool opportunity for me to interview you. And when he's old enough to appreciate what I'm doing here, he can kind of take a listen. But yeah, so you took that obsession from when you were young and continued it through, your current age now.
Yeah, I'm 34 and a half right now. So yeah, I'm essentially at the enthusiasm level of your son. I'm just carrying it forward into old age, hopefully.
It just never ended, which is cool. I mean, my son can pronounce the names of dinosaurs that A, I never heard of before, and B, that I couldn't pronounce if I saw the name and tried to pronounce it. I can't do it. But he's 3 years old and he's doing it, which is crazy. What do you think it is about dinosaurs and young boys?
I think, and that's a great question. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about in the book, because there's basically two questions that fuel the whole book along. The first one is, why are people so fascinated with dinosaurs? There are a lot of extinct animals that are really amazing. And for whatever reason, dinosaurs seem to have as one person I talked to put it, they have the best agents. They get the best press. So why is that? And then the second thing was, why do some of us get so obsessed with dinosaurs? So I kind of came up with this system in the book where it's kind of like 3 stages of dinophilia, basically. So in the first stage, almost everybody gets it. It's kind of like chickenpox, right? It's like almost every child, boy, girl, like people get interested in dinosaurs. It might be a week, it might be a month, it could be a couple of years, but usually it's a phase. They're interested. They're saying all the names. They're getting books or whatever. They're interested, and then they're on to the next thing. And then there's a smaller percentage of people who go into stage 2, which is the kids who have the dinosaur T-shirts, and every birthday and Christmas they're getting all the dinosaur presents, and they're just, everybody knows them in their class as like, that's the dinosaur kid, which was totally me. And then some of us either rekindle the interest later, or they just keep it for life, and you become a paleontologist, or you become, just a person who is deeply fascinated, and you're a lifer. And that's what I am. I'm in stage 3. There's no curing it. There's no remedy for it at this point. So, but it's a good thing to be interested in. I think for anyone who has children and they're getting interested in this stuff, I mean, it's a great gateway to learning about a lot of things. You learn about geography. You learn about all areas of science. You learn about animals. Because one of the best ways to learn about dinosaurs is looking at modern animals. So you get to learn a lot of things. Even into genetics and stuff like that. So it's a great gateway interest into a lot of other interesting areas.
Okay. That's cool. And I've read that you've dug for fossils in a few different states, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Colorado.
Yeah. So the book was about I always had this dream of going to Colorado and digging for dinosaurs out there. We in Pennsylvania do not have rocks that are the correct age to carry dinosaurs. And this is kind of interesting as an interesting kind of side topic here. When you think of the classic dinosaurs, your Brontosaurus, Allosaurus, Stegosaurus, they're about 150 million years old. Our coal here, we're famous for our anthracite coal, and there's a lot of shale and different deposits here. They're about 300 million years old, maybe a little bit older. So we have rocks that are twice as old as dinosaurs. So there probably would have been dinosaurs in this part of the world, but we just don't have the right age sediments to track them. Now down in New Jersey, they do. So they have found dinosaurs there, and you can go dig at a place where it's a marine deposit. So it's not on the land. There aren't really dinosaur fossils there, but there are fossils from right around the asteroid impact about 66 million years ago. You can go down there and dig. But I really wanted to go out west because that's where the big dinosaur discoveries were made in history and where they're still being made today. And that was a big driver of the book, was make this pilgrimage out there to actually do it, to dig for dinosaurs and see if you can find anything. I don't want to spoil the book for anybody who wants to go along for this whole ride, but
yeah, please don't. I'm not here to do that.
I wanted to try to find something out there, so that was the
cool.
That was the key. So
you'll tell the story on Thursday.
I'll talk a bit about the library is very interested in how you take that concept of, you're really interested in this thing, and how do you turn it into a book?
Sure.
And what that means for other people, because I'm not a scientist, right? I think I should make that clear as well. I'm not a paleontologist. I'm just really fascinated by this stuff. And one of the things that's difficult for scientists is to translate the science into something accessible. So, in dinosaurs, we have some great movies to look back on, and we have,
Of course.
a lot of media, but the actual science is usually either partially reported or not reported with a lot of context. So it's hard for people to really access that information. So I'm one of the people who's trying to communicate that in a way that, even if you don't particularly find dinosaurs the most interesting thing in the world, you might get interested in learning more about it, and maybe rekindling that interest you had when you were a child.
Yeah, one thing that I always say, I it's cool having a young child because you can kind of see life through their eyes. Because my imagination sucks as an adult. Like, I'm bitter, I'm jaded, all those things that kind of crush your spirits. But yeah, it's so hard because he'll be like, play with me with the dinosaurs, play with me, and I'm just kind of like, but his imagination is running wild. So it's pretty neat. I hope you get a good response from the book. And I mean, the book's been out. I mean, how has the response been of it so far?
It's been incredible. So the book came out in late 2018. We had an awesome event at the Everhart Museum. We had a lot of people come out and did a reading there. I've received messages from people from all over the world, in Asia, in the UK, people in the States, like, just really interested in the book. If you're a person who likes dinosaurs or used to, it'll probably be something that you'll enjoy reading. But I think one of the things that's been really nice for me to hear is that people who would never pick up a book about dinosaurs found a way into getting excited about their childhood passions again. So maybe they read this and they weren't they're not itching to go out west to dig for dinosaurs, but they're like picking up the piano again, or doing something with either their kids or with their older friends that they haven't done in a really long time. So it's been really nice to get that reaction, because that was one of the things I wanted to have people get out of the book when I was writing it.
Right. And let's get into that. You mentioned to me, there's things that you can do in Pennsylvania, to appreciate dinosaurs, to appreciate nature. You mentioned the Everhart. I actually forgot about that place until I was reading that press release that I saw. And I said to my wife, like, if that's still open or still functioning right now, we have to go. So what are some things people can do here locally in NEPA that kind of, to get with what you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think what you said, a minute ago, just go back to that, where he was talking about, your son's imagination is just, so vivid. And sometimes as an adult, it can be difficult to get into that headspace again. We're so isolated from it. So I think one of the great things about learning about dinosaurs, or just nature in general, is just how vast it is, and so there are ways to kind of connect with that. And I think it's kind of, it's a really important thing for us to do when most of us spend the majority of our time paying the bills, doing the chores. We're completely not thinking about coral reefs or slime molds or like giant earthworms or something like we're not thinking about those things. It's just not part of our daily routine. And I think the more that we get out of this human centric world, this headspace of just thinking about people, which is good, by the way, like, it's good to think about other people, right?
Right.
That's great. But there's millions of other species alive right now that we're just not paying attention. You might see some birds outside the window. There might be some annoying squirrels that are getting into your attic or whatever. but we're not thinking about all these wonderful creatures. And I think dinosaurs are a great way to remind us that like none of this is guaranteed, right? Like, so I think there are different things you can do if you're in northeastern Pennsylvania. There are a bunch of things you can do to kind of fuel that imagination and get yourself back into a place where you're appreciating things the way a child would. So one of the things you can do, and you can do it right now, you don't have to worry about any kind of restrictions or anything, is when you're driving on the interstates, like especially Interstate 81 up by going toward the shops at Montage and then going towards Scranton, there are rock cuts there. And this is the best time of year to do it, by the way, in the winter when there's no vegetation there. So you can really see the rocks. And you can see that there are black shale deposits there. And they're separated by a ton of just, it's sandstone. It's very easy to see it. You don't have to be a geologist. It's very clear. That's sand. And so what you're actually driving through is the story of seas that were coming inshore and burying swamps, which are those black shale coal deposits. And so you're just seeing eons of just, swamps and then seas and then swamps and seas, and you can drive right through that. I mean, you're getting a story right there. So if you're going up to you're going shopping or something, you can talk to your kids about that and just enjoy it for yourself. I mean, it's an awesome thing that we can do. The Everhart Museum is a great resource. It's a fantastic resource. You can see a lot of people are shocked. They don't realize they have a full-size cast of a Stegosaurus there. And they have a cast of a Tyrannosaurus skull. We'll get to where they're from in a minute. But you can stand in that room and you can take it in and say, okay, there's more time existing between when the Stegosaurus lived and when the Tyrannosaurus lived than there is between our time and the Tyrannosaurus. So that's, again, just opening your mind up to just how amazing this whole span of time is, that we are just the latest inheritors of this great tradition of life. The Everhart also has a great, we've been talking about the shales and the coal and the, that's Carboniferous fossils about 300 million years ago. They have some amazing fossils there from that time. And you can see the trees and the foliage and all that stuff there. It's just really cool. Once we can do a little more traveling, there's a lot of places you can go. If you're interested in dinosaurs, we happen to live in a very nice place where you can get to some really incredible places with just a few hour drive. So in New York City is the American Museum of Natural History. If you've not been there, I strongly encourage you to go, whatever age you are. I've spent a whole weekend there with friends, and we've just about seen everything in 2 days. So you can certainly customize your schedule down to a day, but you can see so many amazing things from the natural world today. And the entire fourth floor of the museum is fossils. So there's 2 dinosaur halls, tons of different specimens, very famous specimens there from all of geologic history. It's amazing. If you want to have kind of a smaller experience, you have really young kids and you don't want to go into just the gigantic New York experience, the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia, which is now associated with Drexel University, has an amazing dinosaur display. It's nowhere near as big, so you can get through it pretty quickly, which is great for young kids, but there's some really great mounts there as well. And of course, the Smithsonian is in Washington, D.C. They've just redone the dinosaur halls a couple years ago now. So they've got some really, really impressive skeletal mounts. So it's not just a big skeleton that's standing there doing nothing. They're nesting, they're fighting, they're eating each other. I mean, there's all kinds of great dinosaurs there. And then, of course, the library is the best place to go. If you want to do something right away today, that's where I used to go as a young person with my dad, just going to the library and checking out books about dinosaurs, and you can learn so much just from doing that. Or of course, now there's a lot of things available online. There's a decades of wonderful dinosaur documentaries. So there's lots of ways you can get it involved without having to go out west or do something really extravagant.
Yeah, I feel like I forgot about the library. What a great resource to have.
Yeah, and a great one right now too, because they're trying to make everything accessible, or whatever hometown you're in.
Yeah.
you can get books on loan. You can find stuff online sometimes from the library. So yeah, it's always a great resource.
I'm glad we had this conversation, because that's something I didn't think about. I get so caught up in like the media and like the digital and computers and things like that. You forget about the thing that's been around forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good thing. It'd be fun to do. Take the kid there, for sure. So, I mean, what's next for you as far as dinosaurs go?
That's a great question. So I'm working on putting a second book together, a little less about me this time, but it's going to be hopefully about the great American dinosaurs, just those classic dinosaurs that everybody all over the world knows, largely because they were the first ones found. So, they kind of took precedence. But yeah, so hopefully we're going to take another journey, and it's going to be about, the dinosaurs that are kind of enshrined in our culture are, they're big, they're dumb, they drag their tails, all that stuff. And so, how do we go back to some of these paintings that were done in the 40s and say, all right, if we were going to imagine what it looks like today, if someone was going to start painting this now, how different would it be? What would it look like? How would we go about that? And so we're going to try to cover all the science that's been done in like the last century to update our vision of what dinosaurs are. And of course, we have a lot of dinosaurs with feathers. We know what color their feathers were in some cases. We know what color their eggs were. We know we have all this great information about dinosaurs that we just didn't have even 10 or 20 years ago. So
right.
Hopefully that'll be the next book. But these things take me a few years to do. There's a lot of travel involved, which of course is not an option at the moment. So
right.
Yeah, hopefully in a few years we'll reconnect and we can see what happens.
And I mean, was it your goal to be a published author?
No, not at all. And that's a great point. I remember being a kid and thinking it would be cool to do,
right?
But I had no sense of it. And actually, so I went to grad school for creative writing at Wilkes University, and I basically did the program because a few of my friends did it and told me it was like a great experience. So, and we mentioned this when we were setting up this talk, but I was doing some music at the time. I was playing in a band, and we were kind of deciding to transition out of that. So I thought, this would be a great thing for me to do, to still stay creative and maybe pick up this writing thing that I'd always been interested in but never really dove into. And then I didn't have any interest in even writing nonfiction. I was going to write fiction. I was trying to think of something to do, and we were doing some exercises about things you remember from your childhood. And I started writing about dinosaurs, and everybody in my class would get upset if I didn't write about dinosaurs. And my professor kind of pulled me aside and said, "Hey, listen, I think you're onto something here. I don't know if you realize it, but I think you should keep going with this and see if you can develop it into like a full project." And so that's how it came about. And then it was about just the dreams you have as a kid to go out west or to meet certain people. I was able to meet some of my heroes from when I was a kid, who by the way are not used to being treated like they're rock stars. So they have this hilarious response to just especially when it's coming from a grown man too. It's not like some 10-year-old kid, So yeah, I was able to, kind of meet up and like have a beer with some of my heroes and, just visit some amazing places that, if you talk to people and you tell them you're writing a book, they might let you see some things that aren't on public view or, aren't in the normal display route. So that was really cool. And there's, a lot of experiences in the book that I still can't believe actually happened. So I'm just excited that I get to share that experience with all of you. And it's not just something I did for myself, but it's more of sharing that with other people.
Yeah. It's always neat to see or hear about when things that, like dinosaurs that have taken you to places that you never thought you'd even go, So
yeah. And that's the thing, like, for me, it's dinosaurs, but I have friends who are just as knowledgeable and excited about like sharks.
Right. Yeah.
So whatever it is for you, like I would encourage you to like follow up on that. If you're interested in certain things, like keep reading about it. It's astronomy or, hiking, whatever it is, just, keep up with it. And I think it feeds your soul, right? It feeds your heart. Like just keep doing the things that make you happy and share that with as many people as you can. It's going to keep giving back to you.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it like you said, it feeds your soul. But if it takes you someplace that you never thought possible, like even cooler, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you touched on music, and
Yeah.
I can't not talk about that. I mean, obviously, we're here to talk about the book and what you have come up on Thursday. But I mean, it was funny because I saw the press release on NEPA Scene, and I was like, it'd be cool to talk to him. So I searched you on Facebook, and we were already friends. I'm like, how are we already friends? Like, how do I know this guy, right? And I'm not one to just like, randomly friend request somebody that I don't know, or, just accept somebody because they, friend requested me. I'm like, I got to know this guy somehow, right? And I couldn't figure it out. And then you mentioned the band, The Silent Treatment.
Yeah.
Which was a pretty popular band, 2009, 2010?
Yeah. Our first album came out in 2008. We did another CD in 2009. And then 2010, we played some bigger shows. So
I remember there was a show at Tinks that you guys were doing. I don't know if you were opening for somebody or if it was yours, but it was a pretty big deal in Scranton. Tell us a little bit about that experience, and I mean, if you can, or whatever, or why things kind of, I don't want to say fell apart, but why things ended, or.
Nobody's ever asked me that in public before, but I could tell you, Johnny.
It was a great band. My wife and I really enjoyed the music. I played it a couple times when I used to have a radio show.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, I actually, I think my year anniversary was I did like a set of songs that or bands that kind of like either got me into the scene or were kind of bigger when I was like just getting started. And one of the songs was called, I think Sweet Ending, maybe. So I played it as the last song of the night. But yeah, I mean, it was a great band. I mean, I think you guys had a lot of traction, and I thought you guys were going to like kind of be, bigger than just northeastern Pennsylvania. So tell us a little bit about the band.
So what happened?
What happened?
Thank you for that's very, very kind what you said. I'll try to take you on a whirlwind tour and not talk too much because I mean there's so much history there. But the Silent Treatment kind of grew out of another band that some people may remember from a few years before that, which is called Electric Candy Shop. And I was like the biggest Electric Candy Shop fan in the world. And a bunch of us just thought they were the best band that had ever come out of this area. So those guys had a great run and did a lot of amazing music. And Tony, who was the front man of the band and the primary songwriter, I had met him from Electric Candy Shop, just going to shows, and then I started kind of filling in, and we ended up playing together. And we started getting some of the guys together along with some of my friends, and we put together the Silent Treatment, will eventually become the Silent Treatment. And we, at the time, it's hard to remember exactly now what things were like at that point, but my memory of it was that there were a lot of bands that were popular at the time that were just not uplifting bands. Like, the music was great. We all appreciated the music, but I kind of remember it being like Puddle of Mud and Stained, and like a lot of bands that were just kind of, it was very emotional, dark music.
Sure.
And we got the idea that, wouldn't it be funny if we just play this crazy, outrageous, over the top, like almost joking 80s music that was just like, let's get people to dance, let's make people laugh, let's make people excited and singing along with songs and having a good time. And so we, Tony was writing a lot of music that was very much just like really over the top in terms of just like, it sounded like music for partying, and it was really like all about like about girls and stuff. It was wild, and we were doing it tongue in cheek. I don't know if anybody realized it was like a joke to us, but we loved the actual music of it. And yeah, we had a great run. We put out 2 CDs and a few singles. We played a lot around the area. We did play outside the area quite a bit, in different capacities, whether that was original music or we would play at bars sometimes and just do like a full night interspersed with our original music. And yeah, it was an amazing time. I think we're all still close, all the guys in the band. And well, I don't want to say too much. If you enjoyed the Silent Treatment, I think there may be some music that might be coming your way soon if you're interested.
Wow, I was going to ask you. Like, I thought maybe you guys all kind of hung it up back in 2010 or so. And I was going to ask you if have you stopped creating, or if dinosaurs kind of started consuming your life more.
No, I think and it's funny for me personally. I mean, I can't speak to anybody else, but I got interested in dinosaurs the same time as your son did, like 3 years old. And I was super into music at the same time. And I think those two interests have just run parallel through my whole life. I guess I picked what I liked at that point. I've just stuck with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think you asked earlier, like, well, what happened? I think so. In 2010, we were actually we won a contest that I think Guitar Center put on to open for Kiss at Montage Mountain. And so we opened for them on the main stage, and it was this huge show for us. And at that point, I think we were already kind of, we worked so hard in the previous years, we were starting to get burned out. And I think we actually hit a wall a few times where we were just so mentally and physically exhausted. And basically a few months after that show, we all got together and kind of just basically decided that like we had enough of the industry side of it. We wanted to like fall back in love with just writing music again. And enjoying that. And and the other thing that was amazing was we had so much material at that time that was just never released. It was like half written or half recorded or demoed or something. So we just haven't fully explored all that. So again, without putting the cart before the horse, there's been some talk lately about kind of getting back into that. I think we all needed some time. I think we all needed some time away from it to fully understand what happened to us being such young guys, and also to like get the business side of it out of our system. And so we can kind of come back to music and not be worrying about what management was going to say or how many plays it was going to get on Facebook or MySpace at the time, and like all that stuff. There were so many considerations around everything that you did.
Yeah.
So to come back and just be very pure about it was kind of the goal. And I think it took a long time for us to be, to have that all out of our system.
Right. That's interesting. I was I always find it interesting when people, musicians especially, because I know a few of them who, were in it and then just kind of stopped. Like I'm done with this part of my life. And it's weird because I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's because I have no talent musically whatsoever. So I'm like, why would you just let it go like that? But yeah, it's always strange. I'm glad to hear that, that's not the case here, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it was for a long time. I mean, I don't want to get like too deep or existential here. But it's tough, and it's tough also to like to do it to if you're going to write music or you're going to perform, you have to do it in a way that's like really authentic to you. So I decided, and I don't have any problem with anybody who does this, but I remember when we were at our peak and we were like, I don't know, 23, 24 at the time. It was like, well, I remember thinking, I'm never going to be like a 50-year-old guy in a cover band. I'm not against anybody who does it, but just for me, I was like,
Right.
That's not who I want to be. If I'm playing my own stuff at 50 on a stage somewhere, that's great.
Right.
But you have to do what you want to do. And there's other people who like can't wait to do that. And like, the guys are always talking about things. I remember a few years ago we were talking about let's do a Metallica cover band, and I was like, oh, maybe I would be tempted to do that. That's how I started, when I was a teenager. But yeah, I think it's just like you have to kind of figure out what's authentic to you, what feels right.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to play covers ever for any reason. So
that's funny too, because there's bands who, they're like, I'm not playing cover songs. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. We want to do original. And like you said, there's guys who just, that's what they want to do. And there's a place for both. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And it's great. It's, it's awesome when you go out and you see a band that's doing like, they're just slamming and it's just like one classic after another and they're having a good time and everybody else is having a good time. And like, that's magic. I mean, there's you cannot reproduce that from just playing the songs like on a like a DJ. Like it's different with a band. It's a different experience, and there's nothing wrong with DJs either. But it's just like what you want to do personally, and that to me it was always like be true to yourself and don't do something just because it's a nice way to make some extra money on the side, or because you don't want to. I remember reading an article about a band who was worried that they were not going to be a band anymore. And so they just kept playing. They got older and older and they were just like, well, we're so afraid to not be in a band anymore because that'll mean we're old. So we just have to keep playing. It's like, to me, that was never what it was about. It was about, creating something new and sharing that. So.
Right. What are your thoughts about, this pandemic and, musicians and things like that? Because I have a lot of conversations with people and, I don't, you mentioned, creating, like, I think being a musician, is outside of writing songs and things like that. I think a big part of being a musician is, being on stage and being able to share those songs with people. So, I mean, while a pandemic has been a financial strain on, artists, I think it's also like mentally, emotionally, physically, creatively, like top to bottom. It's kind of it's just wild.
Yeah, I have friends who can't play, and it's a big deal for them. I noticed a lot of the bands that I personally follow have been releasing live albums this year because they just to have something, they need some way to make money.
Yeah.
And one of the bands that I listen to a lot put out a kind of a Christmas medley just because they wanted to be able to pay their road crew because there was nothing for them to do.
Right.
So it's a really hard time right now. It's really stressful. And I think all of us want this over as soon as possible. But and I think you've seen other artists go fully into let's write new things, let's put music out and we'll tour later, and just be as creative as possible during this time because there's nothing to really distract us in terms of having to play live or, whatever. So I think it's just a different time. it's a different challenge for everyone. It's not normal. It's not permanent, thankfully, at least we hope. So it's just, and I think the nice thing is when this is all over, I think all of us are going to appreciate everything so much more. Just to be able to go to a show is always a privilege, but when you're going to be able to go out and really enjoy it, and not take it for granted that it's just something that we all do all the time, and to be able to see the bands you want to see, whether they're local or national. I don't really draw a big line between local bands and national bands.
Right.
I don't think there's any real difference. It's what you like. Do you like them? Do you like their music? Then what's the difference? How many other people are listening?
Right.
So I hope that this will all be over soon and things can go back to the normal, the normal model for everybody in terms of making sure that people, because I know there are people who are musicians full time and they just, their livelihood is gone right now. And there are so many local businesses that are suffering. There are so many things that are just being completely affected in a terribly negative way by this. So, hopefully we can get through this quickly and make the most out of what we can, like make the best of a bad situation. And, I'm curious to see what comes out of it.
Right. Well, one thing you can do during the pandemic is read. So
that's right. That's safe to do.
Your book, Dig, A Personal Prehistoric Journey. Can people, can they purchase physical copies somewhere and as well as, digital versions?
Yep. So you can order the book online from Amazon or any of the major retailers. You can also, if you don't want to wait for it to come in the mail, there are usually copies at the Wilkes-Barre Barnes & Noble as well. They have it stocked there. I know some of the other regional Barnes & Nobles do stock the book. So if you want to get it, there are several ways to get it. And we don't have an ebook right now, but I actually am going to have a conversation with my publisher in the next couple of weeks about possibly doing one. So there may be if you're a person who really wants to read on a like a tablet or one of the e-readers, we should have an option for you pretty soon.
Cool. Well, best of luck with the new book and getting that put to bed. But obviously, thanks for taking the time to do this, and I wish you the best on Thursday. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great talking to you. Like I said, I remember you now from the band, but I mean, I was so young back then too, and I was just kind of getting into my career. So this has been fun. So thank you.
It was an absolute blast. Thank you for talking to me. And whether you're more interested in this conversation for the music side or from the reading side or both, I just hope that you are finding what works for you in this crazy time we're in, and just keep following what you're passionate about and keep sharing that. And I think we'll all be okay.
For sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you. And hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
See ya.